Welcome back to Unpacking My Thoughts. Today, I want to unpack 2020. Today is December 1st. I don't know when you'll actually be able to hear this podcast if you're listening to it, or when you'll watch this via YouTube if you're watching me. But I'm recording this December the 1st, and it might be a little premature to unpack 2020, but I think it's safe enough, and we've been through enough that I can unpack how I feel about 2020. And I just want to start off by saying, if you did not accomplish everything that you thought you were going to accomplish, if you did not get through your checklist, your to-do list, your vision board, give yourself grace and patience, because we have been through a very traumatic year. Extremely traumatic. I don't know sometimes if we realize the impact of a trauma when we're going through it. There are some people who do. They realize the impact of it, they acknowledge it, but there are a lot of people who carry so much that they don't really um, acknowledge the impact that trauma has when they're in the midst of that trauma. And this year was traumatic. I do not know. There may have been some people, but I don't know of any, that this year did not affect their lives in some type of way. In some way, shape, or form, this year has impacted all of our lives. Let's just start out with January, the death of Kobe Bryant. Was not a family member, he was not even a close friend, but that just, oh my goodness, he and I are the same age, and to think about all the things he had accomplished and where he was at in his life, retired and enjoying working with his daughter, with her basketball, and enjoying his wife and his other daughters. And to think that ended in a plane crash, along with the other people's lives who ended in that, helicopter crash, and the other people whose lives were ended also. That just was a jolt. And then we're going into a year where things were just shut down. Around March is when we were gone, when we were going into quarantine. Yes, that's what I want to say. We were going into quarantine, and a lot of people were able to transition with their jobs and work from home. A lot of people were not. There were people who were furloughed. Some people were let go from their jobs. There were businesses who lost out on everything and had to close. We were impacted once again. Now, on top of the pandemic and the deaths that's, going on, we're also impacted by police brutality, injustice, just blatant disrespect that we had never seen on the level, on the governmental level that we saw it on in the White House. We had never experienced anything like we experienced in 2020. I, in my lifetime, hope to never experience that again. But who is to say? I just have to pray and trust and believe that God will just keep me in the midst of anything like He has. Because this has been one of those years that every time you thought you had seen everything that you could see, something else popped up and was like, surprise! Here's something else that you weren't ready for. So just when just when we're getting a better understanding of the pandemic, we're watching all these people that are being affected by it. We're finding out more information that it's, you get it through it's a respiratory virus that you get through droplets, when you're not wearing masks and protecting your face and the other person isn't protecting theirs. You got people who were fighting against the mask, people who wanted to wear their mask. Then they had to make the mask mandatory. Stores were able to start back opening up. People were able to start back going to work. And then you saw an influx of the people who were getting infected, and then people who thought it was a hoax and it's no more than the flu. And it was a lot going on. And in the midst of all of this going on, you still have people who had their everyday lives. You have husbands and wives that were trying to work through their own issues, and children that had to be homeschooled or virtual did the virtual learning. You then have, on top of all of this, and forgive me if my timeline is not right, I'm just kind of discussing things as I'm thinking about it. You had the death of Chadwick Boseman that pops up, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Um, you also have the death of so many other beautiful, wonderful people, family members, fathers, mothers, daughters, sisters, brothers, people that we don't even know that we were mourning for. Celebrities or not, a death is something that is a sad thing because you have to deal with the fact of not having that person here anymore. So, being able to be here December 1st, 2020, and look back on everything that I've come through, I was just like, I got to take a moment and unpack all of this because I don't want to tell myself, oh, you're fine. Oh, I'm okay. Yeah, I made it through. I'm good. I'm all right. And not really give myself a chance to acknowledge what I've been through, acknowledge the stress and the trauma and the devastation of what I went through. Our lives changed so much. How we were able to embrace each other, how we were able to meet and have functions. And that, functions is a whole nother podcast that I'm going to be doing because we're starting to gather back up and it might be a little too soon. And the people that are using COVID-19 tests as a way to go party, I don't necessarily agree with that, but hey, that's a whole nother podcast. So we won't try to get into that. We won't unpack that in this podcast. Um so 2020, again, I want to encourage you to give yourself the grace and the patience and the understanding that you need for not doing everything you thought you should do this year, and just give yourself the acknowledgement of survival, that you were able to survive. And if you were able to thrive, that's even better because there were so many lessons to learn and take away from 2020 that I just think it's remarkable for those who have been able to still stand and still do what they do every day, go to work and do customer service, or get up and take care of kids and not know what's going to happen next because of the loss of income. I commend you. I applaud you because that takes a lot to be able to continue on during all of this. And for those who are not feeling okay, who are not okay with everything that happened, because really and truly, when you're dealing with something traumatic, post-traumatic stress disorder is real. Reach out to someone. Reach out to a family member, a loved one, a pastor, a counselor, a therapist. Reach out to someone that you trust. If you can't reach no one else, you can definitely pray and reach out to God, so that you can get the help that you need and that you're not just bottling it up and not dealing with it and processing it effectively. So 2020, so many people are saying, oh, I'm ready for 2021. I don't know what's over there. I don't know what's in 2021. So I'm going to just take day by day 2020 and just, continue to be the best version of me that I can be. To take the lessons that I've learned from 2020 and to grow and to, be a kinder person, to be a more gentle person. And this is one thing I want to say also. If you don't think you need grace, oh, this wasn't a tough year for you and you're okay, give grace and patience to someone else then. Be kind, be gentle with someone else because you don't know what they dealt with this year. You don't know what all they came through this year. So be kind and make sure that you are or trying to understand someone else, what they're going through and what they're dealing with, and not so much just keeping the focus on, well, I'm good. Well, somebody else may not be. So that is my unpacking of 2020 and just how it affected me.